Who's organising the fun. Lisa Wilson, over to you. Good luck. Your 15 minutes are starting now.
Morning. Thank you very much, Sean, and thank you, Glenn, for all those mega interesting ideas. I used to work with Glenn, and they are really good fun to use in the classroom and out of it as well. But moving on, we're going to have a bit of a look this morning at routines in the VYL classroom. Those of you who don't know me, my name's Lisa, and I'm the YL coordinator here in what's actually a pretty rainy Palermo this morning. And what we're going to have a look at this morning is the role of routines. So to start us off, I've got a quote for you, a bit of a TV quiz, and I'm wondering if anybody can tell me where this quote comes from. Think popular TV shows. Perhaps if you recognise it, you can type into the comment box down there. Let's have a quick look. Perhaps I've gone a bit too old school for some people. I can see a few of you typing. I'll give you a chance. Yes, absolutely, Beverly. It's from Friends. It's Monica from Friends. And to make us feel old this morning, season 5, 1998, apparently. And I'm taking a bit of inspiration from this quote this morning, this idea that rules are good. Rules help control the fun. And we're going to have a little bit of a look at the role of routines in the VYL classroom and hopefully share some really practical ideas that hopefully you guys might want to use in your classroom, but also get some ideas from you that you can all share with each other. So, to start off with, a little bit of theory from the wonderful Carol Reed. Now, she tells us that routines are established patterns of behaviour, something that exists so that everyone knows what's expected of them and what they should do. And I think this idea of having clear expectations in any classroom, but especially in the VYL classroom, is a really, really important thing. So just on that note, those of you who do teach VYLs, can you maybe pop a comment in the box? What sort of ages do you teach? What's perhaps the youngest VYLs that you're teaching at the moment or that you have taught recently? Because we know this does vary quite a lot depending on your context. Just to put it in context for you about us here. Oh, the youngest is 3 years and 3 to 9 for you, Colette. So yeah, 4 and 5 as well. So we're going to look at some routines today which I've used with 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5, 6 and 7. Anything younger than that, I'd be really interested to hear your ideas on them. Now, the thing with routines is, why are they important? And coming back to the lovely Carol Reed and to Sarah Phillips as well, they talk about the role of routines in natural language acquisition, creating a community. This idea of helping learners become more autonomous, because, you know, when we teach VYLs, when we teach anyone, but especially VYLs, we're looking at this idea of developing a whole person, and routines can really help us to do that, and help us to organise our lessons with them, and most importantly, I think, help with making our learners feel more comfortable, more confident in the classroom, which I think for a lot of VYL teachers is the main goal. A particularly important part as well, something that's very important. Apologies for my format in there. I'm the younger learner coordinator, not the PowerPoint coordinator. Lynn Cameron talks to us about how these routines can really provide an opportunity to help our learners predict meaning, get used to interactions, and as they get used to them, they make sense of them, they're able to grow in the language that they use and in the way they approach those tasks. And I think this is something really, really beneficial out of routines. And we often see it in the classroom that our learners go from just doing what we tell them to taking that language and rolling with it and using things they've learned before in a context that they recognise. So, with those things in mind, I would like to hopefully share with you today 5 key stages in the class or in a lesson where routines can really be important. So, we're going to have a look at a few different things. Hopefully we'll get through all 5 today. And if you do have any questions, any comments, please pop them in the box and I'll get back to you as soon as I can with them. So we're going to start at the beginning and we're going to start with the entering and leaving the classroom. Now, with our very young learners, we know this is a time when things can absolutely go haywire in the VYL classroom. They're so excited by what's going on around them. So with our students, we try and control this and do it in a very structured way of lining up outside, We have a greeting to get them entering the classroom, whether it's hello, whether it's a question, something relevant to what they've been studying, and then into the classroom and get our younger learners organising their own materials, really taking ownership of that, getting their books, their pencil cases, everything sorted, and then everything else put away to minimise those distractions. And then they get their name cards up on the board. Now these are some ones that were made by our VYL students at the very, very start of the year. And you can see that these are things that they have made themselves. We print out their names for them, but then it forms part of a getting to know you phase of the lesson, because perhaps you can see the little pictures on the slides there, and those are all things that the students like, or well, hopefully like, not don't like, and things that can form the basis of telling them things and telling their friends things about themselves. Now, the learners take responsibility for putting these up on the walls themselves, and in addition to all of those things that Carol Reed, that Sarah Phillips talk about, what we also find is that this really helps them with taking ownership of the classroom and personalising the space, because a classroom can obviously be quite an intimidating environment for a very young learner, and the fact that one of the first things they do is take something that has their name on it, put it on the board and claim the space as theirs is, you know, something that they take a lot of pride in and that they really do enjoy doing. Now, once we've got them there and in the classroom, we want to move on to starting and finishing the lessons, and this is where for me the songs come into play. So those of you who teach VYLs, do you use a lot of songs in your classroom? What are perhaps some of your favourites? Let us know down in the comments there. These two on the screen, yes, I think this is quite a common song, a really, really nice one. And these super simple songs, I think, are a fantastic resource. The links are at the end for these, but you can get them from YouTube. And I think what you might find is several of the teachers who work here in IH Palermo, despite not teaching the class, are quite familiar with all the words to these songs because our learners really enjoy singing them. And you know, they sing them so loudly and with such enthusiasm. And what's particularly nice about these super simple songs is that they come with videos, so there's a very clear visual element for the learners to engage with. Yes, Lisa, Merengue at the Market, that is now a classic in our classroom as well. I'm not sure about Baby Sharks, I'll have to find out more about that. But yes, these super simple songs, they have the visual element and a very strong TPR focus to them as well. And alongside, again, these reasons that we discussed at the beginning, these natural opportunities, this creating a community and group dynamic, which is really important for our younger learners. They mark the stages of the lesson, but I also find they motivate the students to get organised quicker. The students really want to sing these songs, they want to get involved, they want to do them with their friends, and in order to do that, they know they have to organise their materials or they have to pack up quickly and efficiently so that they can join in. So it serves as a motivating factor as well. Then, from there, we want to have a look at a very key area in the VYL classroom, this idea of getting attention. Now, I'm sure you all know there are so many things that can distract very young learners. It's amazing what can get their attention, whether it's shoes, whether it's a fly, so many different things. And hopefully at some point as a teacher, we also want to get their attention. And I think one of the key words that we have in this slide is consistent techniques. So I'm going to share with you today the ones that we use here, but I think the most important thing is about having something that your learners recognise. And the techniques you see on the screen now, I tend to use in the order they're in. So the first one, a very simple one for getting their attention, is a 1, 2, 3, hands on head, for a number of reasons. First one being, if your hands are on your head, it's quite difficult to mess around with other things. And that very clearly gets their attention. We then have a chant, stand in a circle, and this was taught to me when I used to work in IH Valladolid by the wonderful Jennifer Ann, who was the younger learner senior teacher then. A very simple chant where myself and the students, we all say, stand in a circle, stand with me. And everyone gets together, holding hands in a circle. So then from there, we have stand in a circle, stand with me, everybody sit down, and we say, if you imagine these are students' legs, we go 1 with their legs apart, 2 with their legs crossed, and then 3, they sit down cross-legged on the floor. And that gets them all sitting and organised into a circle. Yes, Joanna, see there, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. And then that reply element is so important because it means the learners have something to do in the attention-getting side of things. Once we've got them all sitting down and we're ready for the next stage, we use the Give Me 5 technique. Have other people come across this? Have you used it in your classrooms? It's something I've tried desperately to source and to find more information on. I know it from primary schools in the UK where it's a very, very common technique. And if you can see here up on the board, there's perhaps a bit of a small poster version left there. So Give Me 5 is 5 very clear things that the learners have to do. The first step is legs are crossed, then hands are still, ears are listening, eyes are watching, and lips are zipped. And that very much means that they're focused on you and they're engaged with what's going to happen next. And it does. It helps them feel comfortable and confident. They know what's coming up. It's a clear end of a stage in the lesson. It does promote cooperation as well. I find the learners really work together to help each other learn what those stages are. And they've taken over from me now. I never have to say this chant. They do it themselves. I often think they'd do it without me if I wasn't there. And this very much does save time in the classroom. I think it helps you transition quite quickly. Okay, now then, moving on to our 4th stage, something I wanted to have a look at because it can be quite problematic in the VYL classroom is this idea of creating context. We've just heard some wonderful ideas from Glenn about going out and using real world contexts, and this can be difficult with our VYLs. Perhaps they don't have the attention span, maybe they don't have the language needed for the ideas generation and the context setting that we do with our older students. So something that we've come to use here is the knock-knock box. Now, this is something our students respond really well to. You can see it's nothing special. It's a shoebox covered in paper, and you see the little slogan on the top there. And what we do is we fill the knock-knock box with whatever the theme of the lesson is. Perhaps it's got flashcards, realia, toys, anything that the learners are going to use in that session. And once we've sang our songs and we're all sitting in our circle, out comes the knock-knock box, and all the learners, they get together and get their hands out, and it's knock, knock, what's in the box? And we do this at different volumes, different tones of voice, and this really has developed some natural language acquisition because now they're used to it and they know what happens. They ask questions about what's in the box. They'll say, is it old? Is it new? How many? Is it a card? Is it a toy? So they're really interested in what's coming out of that box and really engages them and enthuses them in the lesson. Okay, I see I've got a few minutes left, so just going to flip on to the very last bit, which is something we're using in our school, and a reward system. Now, I've left this to the end because for me, I think a reward system is, as it says there, a positive consequence of positive behaviour. It's not the main influence in the classroom, but it's almost inevitable. Through your routines and through your teaching and through the positive things you're doing in the class, then the rewards will come off the back of that. And more so than just being about rewards, they're about a dialogue. So how we run this here is you can see the learners' name cards on the board. Next to that is a laminated sheet of smiley faces. So this is wiped clean. And you can see there are 10 smiley faces next to each student's name. When we start off an activity, we'll tell the learners what the expectation is. Is it good listening? Is it teamwork with your friends? Is it good English? Notice, it's not about winning or anything like that. It's about positive behaviour. And when the activity's finished, if the learners have met those expectations, they get a smiley face, which is simply whiteboard pen lined through a smiley face. And towards the end of the lesson, if they have 10 smiley faces, you can see there they get a star. And they collect their stars on peg charts, which we stick in the front of their books, and they can fill this up with stars. Once they get to 10, we have different certificates which we give out to the learners, and they get them for 10, for 20, as they go through the year. Now, there's a lot of talk about reward systems, the pros and the cons of them, and I think the way you implement them is what's important. And we find here the learners respond incredibly well to them. They're not a substitute for effective teaching, they're not a substitute for praise or for encouragement, but they do show learners clearly what their progress is, and they also provide a dialogue with parents. We see our younger learners going out, showing their parents their stars, showing their parents their certificates, and really taking pride in the fact that they are coming to a classroom and doing things in English. So just to bring this quickly back around to the beginning, Lynn Cameron had that quote about learners being able to predict meaning and develop their language abilities through the existence of clear routines and feeling confident and knowing expectations. And I think as teachers that's important as well. When we have these routines in place, it frees us up to be much more creative and experiment more in our teaching. It gives us a chance. We know the mechanics of our class are covered, that the students know what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. Hopefully, through consistent routines, we've shaved time off those difficult stages like coming in and out of the classroom and transitioning between activities. And that means that our learners can get more out of activities and do more while they're actually in the classroom. And hopefully, the result of that is the main goal of teaching VYLs, that we foster a positive and enthusiastic attitude to learning English. So, thank you all very much for tuning in and listening today. Just a few thank yous to people here in Palermo, in Valladolid, in Bydgoszcz and in Torun, who throughout the last 5-6 years have all contributed to different ideas. I've got the links here for you. If you want to get hold of the charts or certificates, you can go to Sparklebox. The songs there are on Super Simple Songs, and you can get hold of those classroom management posters with the link here. My email as well, so if you have any questions, then please feel free to get in touch and I'll try to answer anything that I can. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and well done for almost staying on time there as well. Excellent. Well done. If you want to get the links, obviously they are live links on the slide, so you can click on them now. If I may, I also suggest that one way you can save these things is to take a screenshot if you want them. Lisa, as is the way, can I ask you to go off camera? We thank you very much for bringing us that. If you're new to this conference, you'll now be getting an idea of how fast, furious and eclectic it can be. So we started in Poland, we've been to Italy for some young learner. Now we're going to come over to the UK. And somebody from IH Manchester, Marie, is going to teach us about improving learner spelling. So hang on a sec, we just need to stop and start the recording.